Restart the camera. Alright. Welcome to another edition of our glorious show. Joe, your face is kind of casting a shadow. Mysterious. Welcome to Attack of the Back. Love that part. Alright. I am your host, Mr. Chest. Yeah. That's Joe, and he's also your host. Don't want to sound greedy. It's my show. My show. Alright. Get right at it today. We're going to hit a couple stories, and then we're going to talk a lot about the West, both the NFC and AFC West. Alright. So, first thing we're going to touch on, being Packers fans, we got to stand up for our brother-in-arms, Aaron Rodgers. Even though I'm sure he doesn't need any standing up for. I'm sure Olivia Munn is taking care of that. Oh! Alright, but some reporter wanted an interview after the Wisconsin game. Thing is, Aaron Rodgers was down watching the Wisconsin game, and some reporter walked on the court to interview him after the game, and he's like, dude, I don't want to interview. I'm here with my girl. I'm just trying to watch games, support my state, that I play for, Wisconsin, Green Bay. Well, the reporter had a tantrum. The reporter had a temper tantrum and went on Twitter and blasted Aaron Rodgers about it, saying, "Oh, well, they should look at who they let on the field. NCAA should look at who's allowed on the court after the game." It's like, dude, you're only saying this because he didn't grant you an interview. Quit your fucking crybaby. Alright? Quit it. It's stupid. The only reason you're even, complaining about it is because he wouldn't give you the interview. He turned you down. You're like a rejected girlfriend. Get off Aaron's dick. You have anything to contribute to that, Joe?
I find it quite amusing that Dennis Dodd, the reporter, he tweets, "Dear Wisco fans, if it was about the Badgers, then why was A. Rodgers on court? Credentialed media only." Seriously? Then why are you trying to get an interview with him? If it's about the Badgers, why aren't you interviewing Sam Decker, Frank Kaminsky, Bo Ryan, or whatever his name is, the head coach? Why aren't you interviewing them?
Because they're not Aaron Rodgers, man! What's Aaron Rodgers? Discount double check!
And so, credentialed media only. How many times in college basketball have we seen throughout? It doesn't have to be the championship game. Any game throughout the tournament, there's a big game, big win, and the student body floods the court. Are you going to get on Twitter and piss and moan about 5,000 students rushing the court? Because they're not credentialed media? Dumbass.
By the way, we're not going to throw brands out there anymore on the snack of the pack or snack of the show for worrying into possible lawsuits. So I will just state today's snack of the show are some delicious barbecue chips.
Don't want the chips to be too visible. You might be able to figure out the brand by the texture.
Exactly.
Shape.
Texture, shape, smell. I have smell-o-vision now.
Smell-o-vision.
Alright. Next one we're going to move on to Chuck Pagano, head Colt. Well, he is the head Colt. He is the head coach of the Colts. Has not been offered a contract extension yet. And he's not going to be. He's going to have to play out his contract, or coach out his contract, I guess you would say, before they offer him a contract extension. What do you think about that?
Sorry. I was reading more from the dipshit Dennis Dodd. So who didn't get offered?
Chuck Pagano, the head coach of the Colts.
Come on, man. Just beat cancer.
Right?
What better role model? Coach the players.
But I mean,
I don't know. I mean, Colts done a good job. That's I guess it's not as big of a head scratcher, but just like San Francisco cutting Harbaugh after how many NFC Championship appearances?
Like 3 or 4 consecutive. The way I look at it is the reason why they're doing this is because he hasn't made it to the Super Bowl yet. He's gotten to the AFC Championship a couple times, but he hasn't made it to the Super Bowl yet. But on the flip side of that, it's very apparent that he has no control over the roster. When Ryan Grigson, the general manager, made the move for Trent Richardson, and then released Trent Richardson, and then fined Trent Richardson, and they did all this other stuff with Trent Richardson for like the past 3 years that we've had to hear about. 2 years, whatever. Anyways, he's gotten them to the AFC Championship like what, two consecutive years? I think. Weren't they in it the year before? Against the Broncos?
Did they make the NFC?
I don't know. Anyway.
Chipper.
Anyways, point is,
he didn't want you to see the brand of the pen.
he's been in the playoffs, I think, every year that Andrew Luck has been there. And last year they got to the NFC Championship with a squad that had glaring holes, and it showed when they finally played the Patriots and got blasted by the Patriots. I mean, the dude's doing what he can with what he's got. But I mean, you know, name a defensive lineman on that team last year. And you can't say Robert Mathis because he didn't play.
Yeah.
I mean, you had the German dude they drafted from FSU a couple of years ago, but he's been kind of a bust, and I don't even know if he's playing defensive line. I think he may be an outside linebacker for him. So that defense in general is just not that heralded. So you got to start getting some more production from your picks. I think they should give him the extension, but of course, you know, this is a win now league. This is a league where Jim Harbaugh, how the fuck you say his name, can go to like 3 or 4, you know, consecutive NFC championships and, you know, go and lose a Super Bowl where he almost came back and won. But he can, you know, do these things and get fired. I mean, it's that kind of a league. Rodney Harrison, as you can tell, the NFL wasn't buzzing and brimming with stories this week. So we had to stretch a little bit to find a few stories to fill in there before we hit the AFC and NFC West divisions and breakdown. Rodney Harrison does not approve the use of Geno Smith in the state of New Jersey. Or New York. However the hell you want to look at it. They call themselves the New York Jets, but they play in New Jersey. I never got that. Whatever. Point is, he said on NFL.com, as a matter of fact, that he don't think they'll win more than 5 games. 5. Cinco. Not Ocho Cinco. That would be the retired wide receiver. But, anyways. Yeah, I mean, I'm... By no means am I a former NFL player. I may be the size of one, but... I'm not a former NFL player, not a coach or anything like that. Just some dude, you know, creating his own YouTube channel and whatnot. But I don't really see anything from Geno Smith either. I mean, everybody was surprised at least the media pundits made it seem like everybody was surprised when he fell out of the first round of the draft. I called it. I said, this dude is not going to be picked in the first round. If they are out there, if they have scouts out there worth their merit, he is not going to be picked in the first round. I mean, you heard me say it. I said it time and time again. And then he wasn't. Why? Because he had problems throwing the deep ball. Like, you go back to his days at West Virginia, he was having all kinds of problems throwing deep. So, I mean, and the stuff he was throwing to and catching in the intermediate was like a lot of gimme stuff. I mean, it was like a spread offense, you know. So, and of course, he had Tavon Austin, who just outran a lot of his people and is being exposed a little bit in St. Louis. Where speed is very common amongst NFL defensive players, not as much as it is in college. In college, you know, they take what they get, what they can get, you know. So speed ain't always going to win the day in the pros. Not in today's NFL anyway. And so back to Geno Smith. I hate to say it, but I think his best game last year was against us. He went like 25 of 28 for like 200 yards. And the one passing touchdown he had against us, it wasn't a passing touchdown. It was a fucking delayed handoff. What happened was, he like faked it to Chris Johnson. Chris Johnson ran up. He barely passed the line of scrimmage. And then Geno just goes and flips him the ball. He didn't even throw it. He just, and Chris ran in for like 2 yards and got a touchdown. So
Yeah, and I mean,
that was weak sauce.
come on, let's face it. Green Bay's secondary was susceptible.
Secondary. That was back when Clay Matthews was playing outside linebacker. That means we had A.J. Hawk and Brad Jones in the middle. Secondary. You want to talk about secondary? Secondary? Pulling up Jim Mora. Secondary? No, I'm talking about middle. Talking about middle specifically.
Probably not going deep on us, but okay, maybe a better example would have been Atlanta.
Yeah. Atlanta, we got roasted on the outside. Specifically, Tremont, I get Burnt Williams. Anyways, back to the point at hand. Moving on. Will Jadeveon Clowney ever live up to that humongous hype?
I don't think he will.
The reason I bring this up is there was an article on NFL.com about how his rehab was going extremely well after a very disappointing rookie season in which he spent most of the time on the bench or in the trainer's lounge so very disappointing. Supposedly the 4 games he did play, he wasn't that healthy. That's why he didn't get any sacks. I mean, no one will ever forget that play against Michigan. He just comes through. Michigan unrightfully got the ball back on a botched call, and then he comes in and says, no, I got this. I got this, coach. I got this. Bam! Blows the dude up, causes the fumble, South Carolina recovers. But will we ever see that form in the NFL? Will we? I mean, can he get on J.J. Watt's level? Or is this going to be another Nick Fairley and Ndamukong Suh situation?
I think he has the freakish athletic ability to play maybe close to Watt's level, but he won't do it. It's not going to happen because, like people have already questioned, he doesn't have the work ethic. He doesn't have that motor and that will to play at that level. Mm-hmm. He relies on his athletic ability and thinks he can skirt by with it in college. I can tell the brand by the chewing. No, I think he could if he was willing to work hard, but I think he's going to rely too much on his athletic ability.
I mean, it is hard for people who are so naturally gifted above everyone else. It's hard for them to break off that dependence and to come back and learn the fundamentals.
Yeah. Wide
receivers that are just so inexplicably fast. It's very hard for them to become good route runners because they just have a tendency to, like, when things hit, when shit hits the fan, so to speak, they have a tendency to just say, fuck it. And, burn that speed, instead of trying to run that route, post up correctly for the catch and all that other stuff. So, not saying it can't be done, but.
And I mean, maybe that's something that can't expect everybody, every coach in college to do it, but maybe that's something that can try to be taught in college. That you can't, I'm sorry, I don't care who you are in the NFL, you can't just rely on your athletic ability.
No. But see, sometimes, though, it's the system. Like Georgia Tech, for example. They've been pounding out a bunch of speedy-ass receivers. Calvin Johnson, Demaryius Thomas, Darren Waller is coming out this year. Around some of my tongue, the New York Jets drafted him in the first round a couple of years back. And now he's like out of the NFL, but he ran really good at the combine. God, can't think of his name. But anyway, that guy. They're putting out a whole bunch of really fast receivers, but they don't really come into the NFL knowing a whole bunch of routes because they run the triple option. It's mostly, I want to say his name is Stefan or Steven, like S-T-P-H-O-N something. Anyways, point is, they don't run a whole bunch of complex route concepts and stuff. So, the coach isn't going to take time out of his schedule to Stephen Hill. That was it, Stephen Hill. The coach isn't going to take time out of his schedule and his game planning and all that to teach, these wide receivers a skill that he doesn't need them to know. So, granted, I don't know what the equivalent of that would be on the defensive side of the ball, because it seems like in college defense, they're just saying, hell, get the fuck after the play however you can. Make a play on the ball.
Yeah.
Do it. But, well, he's got a great person to learn from in J.J. Watt, because J.J., he uses his talent and his power and his natural ability, but he also has some great skills. All right, lastly, in the news sector, I'm going to talk about Bill Belichick going completely unpatriot. Yeah, he went off at the league meeting on all the owners, saying something along the lines of, we have all this damn money to put the Pro Bowl in Brazil, to have games in London, to propose games in Germany and France, but we don't have enough fucking money to add a couple of cameras in the end zone so that way we can get better, more efficient and accurate calls. What the hell? And I gotta say, I completely agree with the hoodied one. Seems like some bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as any business goes, one of the things you always want to maintain is quality of your product. And spending the money in these extra cameras would ensure quality of product. Before you go branching out and making more stores, you want to make sure your shit's intact. You want to make sure your shit is right.
Yeah, you can avoid like the Calvin Johnson rule, the Des Bryant catch, stuff like that. But what profits the league more? What gets more news headlines? Games in Germany, games in Brazil.
Yeah,
then you don't. If you take away the controversy.
Yeah,
you got the controversy of the Calvin Johnson rule. You got the controversy of the Des Bryant no catch.
Now
that's better for them.
My background as a wrestling fan growing up, there was once a guy named Eric Bischoff, and he said it best. Controversy creates cash. I mean, well, I was just saying earlier, there wasn't much happening. Why wasn't much happening? Because there's no controversy. I mean, there's the whole thing with Adrian Peterson, but it's so deadlocked right now. Vikings are saying we are not trading him, we are not releasing him, and AP's his agent's coming out and saying, well, he's not going to play for you next year, so what the fuck? So there's no more new intel there. So the Ray Rice thing, the Michael Sam thing.
Oh yeah.
All these things are controversial, and that's what they want. They want hits on their sites. They want
That's
people talking about
wants.
them. So
the Republican in me wants to insert a comparison here to gun control, but I shall refrain.
no.
God knows I'd piss off some people there. So
Yeah, and we want as many of you as possible to like, rate, and subscribe. Anyways, all right, so I'm going to wrap it up here, stop the camera, and we will start with the talk of the divisions.